Greetings, fellow citizens of the Interbubs. This is Rendog coming at ya in another Minecraft episode from the HermitCraft server. We're kicking things off today, my friends, from my 50th episode in Season 10. And I thought we'd do something a bit special for this episode because it's number 50. And 50's a nice round number. It feels like a great time for us to come together and do a base tour and take a detailed look at every single build that we've done so far in Season 10, while simultaneously wrapping our heads around the GigaCorp lore that has helped to define our base for this season. So whether you've been watching the season from the very beginning or you are brand new to my channel, maybe you're dropping in from another hermit and you want to see what's going on in the world of the Rendog, this is the episode for you. We're going to be going through every single corner of the base, looking at everything that we've done, and hopefully by the end of this episode we'll both have a much better understanding of where we are at in Season 10, because a lot has gone on, and I will admit that I've even lost track a little bit of where we're at with all this GigaCorp base lore stuff. So it's an educational episode for both you and me, and it's going to be glorious. Okay, so where to start? There is so much to see and so much to talk about that I think we need to break this episode up into some digestible chunkage or something like that. And probably the best thing to do to kick things off is to set the scene and to dig a little bit into the lore that has shaped this part of the HermitCraft server for us over here. Of course, this is known as a GigaCorp colony, and that's because we've been employed by GigaCorp, the greatest and most amazing corporation in all of the Gigaverse. And, well, the Gigaverse is the universe in which every Minecraft world that has ever been created exists, and we are here on planet HC-10, the HermitCraft Season 10, to construct something called a mega node. And the mega node is going to connect this planet to all the other Minecraft planets in the Gigaverse. Think of it as like a massive mobile or cellular network tower that allows us to communicate with all of the other worlds out there. So that is our mission here on the planet. So imagine, if you will, you are a brand new GigaCorp scientist and you are landing on a planet in a ship known as a JME, which is this massive ship over here. And from the resources that you bring along with you and the resources that you find on a new planet that you have landed upon, you need to construct for yourself your own GigaCorp colony. That will inevitably look a little bit like this. Now, the good news for you as a brand new planet colonizer is that GigaCorp provides a whole bunch of architectural schematics that you can use to construct all of the various facilities that you need for your colony. And that's exactly how we started off our Season 10, building all of the various wild and wonderful facilities that are required to run a successful GigaCorp colony on an exoplanet. Starting at the very beginning with the ship that is going to be taking you to the new planet upon which you are going to be living. And obviously, wherever you land in the Gigaverse, you'll need to make for yourself a place to live and survive. And that's where you'll start your new exoplanet life in a life support facility known as the Gigahut. And once you're all snug and settled in your new exoplanet home, you'll of course need somewhere to operate from. And that is known as the Hangar Bay, in which you will be conducting all of your research and storing all of the wonderful blocks and materials that you discover on your new planet. You'll probably then want to become acquainted with the locals on this planet and build some sort of a shop. GigaCorp recommends selling beacons because beacons always sell well on Minecraft planets. Although at this point you'll be looking at expanding your colony by creating some factories to produce the blocks that you need to create your base. And as your GC colony expands, you'll need some more employees who will all be very comfortably housed in an apartment building known as a Gigaplex, where they can get busy doing all of their hard work producing, well, more materials for you that you can use to expand your colony. Once all of your employees have arrived, you'll want to feed them, of course, and GC provides the blueprints to create a structure that will keep Everyone in the colony fed with delicious melons and pumpkins for the duration of the colony's existence. And once everybody is fed and happy, you can start working on installing some more industrial level facilities like a Gigasmelter, which is a wonderful GC facility that can smelt anything relatively quickly. Although let's not forget that you will still need to get deliveries from GigaCorp, and thus the construction of a spaceport is highly recommended so that more goods and services can be delivered to the colony over the course of your stay there. Although not everything can be cost efficiently delivered, and some things will need to be created in your colony by you and your loyal employees. Things like rocket fuel that you will be using in your GigaCorp jetpacks to fly around the planet while you're doing all your scientific works and whatnot. Although every GC scientist in the Gigaverse knows that with a Gigacorp colony comes danger, because as your colony grows, so does the population of a very dangerous species known as Creekliums that need to be properly contained in a gigabeam ionic powered facility known as a Resinvoire. Beware the Creekliums, my fellow scientists, and remember to build your walls as fast as possible to stop them spreading and decimating the planet upon which you have landed. And of course, once you've got the Creekliums under control and the colony has been walled off for the safety of the planet, you and your fellow employees can relax with the construction of a Scootball Field, upon which you and your very happy employees can play a Saturday game of the Gigaverse's favorite sport, known as Scootball. Okay, wow, that was quite the lore dump in one place. I hope you guys are still with me, and if you are, get yourself a beverage, because we're going to be going through everything that we've done in Season 10 so far in a little bit more detail. And hopefully by the end of this, all of that gobbledygook that I just spilled forth toward you will make a little bit more sense. It's another glorious day in the colony, everybody, and time for us to begin our in-detailed tour of everything that we've done in Season 10 so far. Fair warning, this is going to take a while, and this episode is going to be very long. So get yourself a beverage, get yourself a snack, watch the episode in bits and pieces if you must, but I think I'm in it for the long haul, and I hope you are too. Tell you what, let's start our tour right here at the Gigahut, which was my first official home for Season 10, and it is the first real base structure that I built all the way at the beginning of the season. And I was very happy with how this turned out, because not only did it sort of match my idea for my season base, it started to give me the inspiration that I needed to design some of the other structures that would slowly but surely start to fill up the base. Now, contrary to popular belief, many of us hermits don't have everything planned at the beginning of the season, and for most of us, our inspiration comes from what we do on a weekly basis, and certainly that is true for the Gigahut. The block palette that I chose here would ultimately determine what the rest of the base would look like, and in fact help to define what Gigacorp might look like in my imagination. So I was very pleased when this building turned out so nice, and we stuck with a very simple block palette of quartz, and interestingly enough, a little bit of white concrete, which at first I never thought would fit into this build palette, but these blocks of white concrete I see as replacement panels for potentially rusted steel or metal that might have been used to construct the building, right? So these two whites are obviously very different, but when one sees it as a replacement panel, it starts to make a bit of sense. Of course, we've got some wiring going on over here in the walls, and we've got some outlet tubes and a bit of an infection happening here as some of the toxic gases that are being purified within the hut itself are leaking out into the environment behind us over here. As you will soon discover, Gigacorp's arrival on this planet has caused some sort of intoxication, mostly because of these organisms that we call Mytreliums. We'll get to those a little bit later. But let's talk about the Gigahut. Some very cool things included in this build. And one of my favorites, of course, is the whooshy whooshy door. Is that not the most awesome thing ever? It whooshes closed, the air gets purified in here, and we're safe from all of the scary things that might exist on the outside of this gigaplanet right now. And a very cool little thing that I did here. Probably my first bit of redstone for the season too. Nothing too complicated. We've got a blue wither head on top of a note block that triggers when we hit those buttons. And of course, we've got some pistons that control the opening and closing of the whoosh door. And the result is a very satisfying whooshy whooshy to get in and out of the hut. Very nice. And of course, inside here, we've got all of the essentials that we may have needed at the very beginning of the season. Nothing fancy, somewhere to craft, and then the chest that we can access, a smelting facility over here, and of course, a brewing station where we were cooking up a whole bunch of nether juice and whatnot that we needed to help us survive in the nether and build one of the most insane things that I've ever made, which was a ridiculously huge wither skeleton farm. But we'll get to that a little bit later in the tour. All in all, a very lovely little place to come home to. Always love coming here to sleep the night away. Speaking of which, I think it's almost nighttime out there. But the hut, to me, feels very sci-fi. And every time I come in here, I get that feeling like I am a GC scientist and I am here for some sort of a scientific purpose. Although that purpose is yet to be fully defined. Oh, hi there. You're still on the tour? Well, that is magnificent news. I did spot a couple of people get off the bus about 5 seconds ago. So if you're still here, I appreciate you and I hope that you enjoy our next stop, which is going to be the Hangar Bay. It was our second major structure that we made in the base, and its purpose was very simple. Now that we had somewhere to live, we needed to have somewhere to work. And this structure, known as the GigaCorp Hangar Bay, does everything that you need for your first few months on an exoplanet. It's storage, it's a control center, and it is a mailbox. This is where all our incoming mail from the HermitCraft server mailing system arrives. And we also have a wonderful map of the greater area around the GigaCorp base. As you can see, taking up quite a large chunk of area here, squeezed in between Azuma, Hypno, Corrales, False, and Beef. Here we are, slowly but surely terraforming this part of the planet. But yes, the control center, where all of the control center-y stuff gets done. We've got computers, we've got beep-beeps, we've got digital displays and maps, and, well, the only thing that's really helpful, of course, is we've got storage. Pretty rudimentary storage system down here. I'm just using some blocks to show me where the stuff is. For example, all the iron stuff is in these barrels above the iron. All of the lighting stuff is in this light pumpkin thing, and etc, etc. We can go all through the different storage rooms, and I can relatively quickly find the blocks and stuff that I need to build. We've also got a very cool launching pad, which looks a little something like this, so that we can launch ourselves out of the Hangar Bay and get back to scientific discoveries. Let's try that again. Boom, there we go. Very fun indeed. And, well, one of my favorite structures quietly in my base, to be honest. I really love how it's situated directly across from the Gigahut. And, you know, you can sort of simulate a day in the life of a scientist where we might come in here after a hard days of sciencing, have a lovely little snooze in the bed, sleep those cobwebs out of the brain, wake up nice and fresh, have a pot of coffee over at our coffee station, hit the whoosh whoosh door, and head straight to work in the Hangar Bay. And you know what? While we're in the Hangar Bay, this is a perfect time for me to tell you about the Gigavisor, which is this wonderful bit of glasses technology I'm wearing on my face. Standard issue from GigaCorp, of course. And you might have noticed that we're switching between shaders and vanilla Minecraft textures. And, well, that's what the Gigavisor does. When we turn the Gigavisor on, beep, we, of course, turn on our shaders. And we're using complementary shaders for this season, and these are my own custom settings for complementary shaders. And I spent quite a lot of time working on these settings. And essentially what I did was I sucked all the color out of the shading and tried to reduce as much of the light bloom as possible, as well as the shadows. And what we have got here is a very dimmed version of Minecraft with a little bit of a shader sheen to it, which I think matches the style of the base very, very nicely. So throughout this tour, we'll probably be turning the Gigavisors on and off depending where we are in the world. And yeah, I just want to let you know, if you're wondering why it starts to look a little bit different here and there, it's because we are, beep, turning our shaders, our Giga shader thing, glasses on the face thing on and off. Co-pilot False, we're locked in for landing on planet HC-10. Please hit the left button. We gotta go left. Please hit the hit the left button. Oh no! Co-pilot False has fallen asleep at the wheel! Goodness gracious, my fellow GC scientists. It's so hard to find good co-pilots these days. Oh man. Anyway, we're gonna have to land this thing ourselves at this point. And here we are, on planet HC-10. In the JME Gigatruck, a vehicle designed to safely transport us to new planets where we can set up a fresh scientific colony. And as you can see, this vehicle's got all the things in it. All the buttons and the knobs and the machines and the computers, maps of the area and whatnot. And it is pretty snazzy. Rather comically though, we built this thing a little bit out of sequence. Should have built it first in the series, but didn't have any of the resources. So this build came a little bit later on, after we'd set up a few buildings. But I think for this tour, this is a good spot to introduce it, because the JME is a very important truck for us. Inside of the storage area of the truck, we've got all the resources that we need to build our colony. And it's been very useful indeed, because I've been able to very quickly and easily get all the blocks that I need for the buildings that we're making around here. Kind of helpful to separate all the blocks that you use for your base palette into one area, and then makes it kind of easy to chill. Of course, this is the crew quarters where you can hang out and have a chat and whatnot, and when you need to get back to work, into the storage area you go, and, well, this is supposed to be closed because hostile environment outside. But yes, indeed, the JME looking pretty awesome on the interior. Let's go take a look from the outside. And, well, okay, hold on. Look, the jetpack isn't functioning very well at the moment. Oh, this GigaCorp equipment's so old and malfunctioning all of the time. I tell you what, guys, we need to get in touch with HQ and do some complaining, because things are falling apart. Oh, speaking of falling apart, beware the space rat poop. It is a dangerous substance that spreads a horrible disease called Gigapox. But we'll talk about that in a bit. Firstly, let's have a look at the JME. Pretty awesome. Really enjoyed working on this build. Took me a couple of weeks to finalize the design, and I wanted it to feel a little bit like a Boeing with giant, engine things attached to it that will take you safely across the Gigaverse at hyperspeed speeds or something. I imagine when this thing takes off, the wheels fold in underneath it to become a little bit more aerodynamic and whatnot, and as you're about to land on a planet, the wheels sort of come out and, you gently land. Or should I say you land with a horrendous rattle, more likely. Got a nice little engine at the back here, of course, and this build turned out really nice. One of my favorite vehicles that I have created in Minecraft. I've done quite a few vehicles now over the course of the years, but this is certainly one of my best, I think. Mostly because after the Gigahut, this build really started to bring the flavor of our base to life a little bit, and especially where we parked it over here, sort of hanging over a sulfur pool of squirtapod liquid juice, and in a great central position from which we would start to expand the rest of our base. Looking really, really cool. Speaking of the JME, this is a great opportunity to talk about the foliage that we've been building inside of the base, and while the sun is setting, which is also perfect, we'll be able to see the base with the Gigavisor on at nighttime. Kind of awesome around here. But yeah, let's talk about these trees for a second. Now, these trees are a result of JMEs unable to deal with the spores that these trees create. And unfortunately, it is an inevitability that any Gigacorp colony that is existing in the Gigaverse will eventually sprout Mytreliums. These are called Mytreliums. They've got a lot of spores, which aren't sporing right now. Hold on. We need to get the particles up for maximum dramatic effect. And of course we get the rain too, which isn't ideal, but actually rather atmospheric, especially considering a Creeklium has just spawned too. But yeah, so the idea of these trees is that they come on board JMEs. Their spores attach themselves into the nooks and crannies of the vehicle, and it's basically impossible for us to get the spores off. So whenever a Gigacorp colony is created, these trees will eventually spawn, and they have a bit of a life cycle, which is kind of interesting. They start as a tiny little sapling, which looks like this. Of course, it's the Pale Garden sapling, but I think that looks kind of awesome. Very alien looking. And they sprout into a junior tree, which looks a bit like this. They then grow up into a teenage tree, which is slightly bigger at the bottom, and the teenage trees are beginning to make spores of their own. And of course, they will eventually grow up into the adult trees, which are these really tall trees that we can see here. And the idea of the adult trees is that they redirect all of their biological energies into their spore-generating areas, and so much life energy is created that they eventually become sentient. And from the Mytrelium tree, a Piglin forms. It sort of shrivels down into a hideous mass of life force matter. And from this tree comes forth the Piglins, which is the greatest threat to not only the Gigacorp colony, but the planet upon which the colony has settled. And that's why every Gigacorp colony that exists in the entire Gigaverse creates these ionic beamed walls, which will zappinate any Piglin that tries to escape. And, well, it'll also zappinate, unfortunately, a couple of space rats that try to leave the area. Of course, the space rats are also stowaways. They are very harmless, cute little creatures that come with us wherever we go, and they live inside of the very warm engines of the JMEs. They curl themselves up inside there, and when we land on a planet like this, they come forth and propagate and are basically all over the place. We can see them in every corner of the base, or at least we should be able to. Every now and then we need to restock the supply of space rats as they despawn or get killed by hermits. False symmetry. Cough, cough. But yes, everywhere we look, we can see these wonderful little creatures roaming around the world, and we affectionately call them space rats. There's some other flora and fauna going on in the base, of course. Might as well take this opportunity to talk about the squirtopod, which looks a little bit something like this. It also has a life cycle, starting as a sapling, growing into a ripe squirtopod. And when the ripe squirtopod is ready, it starts to emit liquid sulfur into the environment, and that liquid sulfur pools inside of these massive liquid sulfur pools, I guess you can call them. This is an unripe squirtopod here. And what Gigacorp has realized is that this sulfur that comes forth from the squirtopods is actually harvestable as energy. And every Gigacorp colony will eventually create a reservoir, if you will, of liquid sulfur, and then turn that liquid sulfur into energy. We're going to still need to create some sort of a factory to do that. But the lore of the base, really, is that it is powered by the juice of the squirtopod. Which is a ridiculous sentence that I never thought I would say in a Minecraft video. Hold on 1 second. We need to do some Gigapox disinfectation or what have you. But yes, all over the base you will see these little pools of liquid sulfur doing their work, and everywhere we go we shall see the little space rats, and of course, most importantly, the spores. Can you see them? They're everywhere. Everywhere we travel in this base, we will experience a lot of spores in the air, and actually, kind of interestingly enough, I've tried to use every single particle possible to bring this idea to life. We've got cherry blossom particles, we've got pale garden leaf particles, we've got mycelium particles in this biome over here, and of course, as the Mytreliums become fully grown, all of their biological material starts to land on the ground, and so we start to create this custom biome called the Mytrelium microbiome, which looks like this, and each of these groves around the base will eventually have its own biome beneath it. And let's give a big shout out to the beautiful eye blossom. What an excellent addition to this part of our base. I absolutely love them. They look so cool. But yeah, the JME brings us to the planet, but unfortunately infects the planet with Mytrelium spores and space rats, resulting in us making a massive wall around the place. And, well, that's just the day in the life of a Gigacorp scientist. Hello? Hi. For the next part of the tour, we're heading deep into the Nether to go have a look at our very first massive redstone project of the season. We've got to travel about 1,500 blocks in the Nether to get there, and, well, with this Nether fog, it's going to be pretty tricky to spot the entrance. But this was a very interesting project that I had a lot of fun putting together. Although I suppose we can say fun is a relative term, because I'm not sure how much fun it was to place over 50,000 buttons to make this farm efficient. Here it is, the Wither Skeleton farm that almost broke my brain, because we had to spend a good few weeks placing buttons as far as the eye can see. I mean, it's absolutely crazy how long this took and how many buttons were placed. I can't remember the exact numbers, but we needed to create a spawning circle, or should I say an anti-spawning circle, around this central farm over here. Basically telling the Nether you're not allowed to spawn any other mobs, you're only allowed to spawn wither skeletons, and you're only allowed to spawn them here, so that we can farm them. And, well, there is a massive sphere of buttoned blocks that goes all the way around the central area. Not sure I got every single block, but we got most of them buttoned up, and that has created for us here a very efficient wither skeleton spawning farm, although nothing spawning at the moment. Aha, here they come in their tens of tens. Not ridiculous amounts, but as you can see, they are flowing. It's a it's a fountain of wither skeletons, which is pretty insane. And yeah, you know, you only need to spend 20 or 30 minutes out here to collect an absolute insane amount of wither skeleton skulls. Looting 3 sword, of course, making that job a lot easier. And we basically get an infinite amount of coal and an infinite amount of bone from this too, which is excellent. And yeah, this farm has done a great job helping me keep the beacon shop stocked. Because let me tell you, the hermits have been hungry for beacons this season. We've made a juicy profit over at the shopping district using this farm. It's been great. But yes, a very wild endeavor, something that I've never done in Minecraft before, and very much looking forward to doing something else like this in the Nether at some point. Some sort of massive, mind-blowing farm contraption of awesomeness. But yeah, speaking of awesomeness, let's head over to the shopping district and have a look at our next stop in the tour, which is going to be the beacon shop, from which we've made all the profits from these juicy wither skeleton skulls. I'll be honest with you guys, when I first got the permit for the beacon shop, I was mildly concerned that this was not going to make us a ton of diamonds. My thinking was, once the hermits got all of their beacons, our sales would dry up and we would no longer make any more diamonds from this particular shop. However, that has certainly not been the case. Welcome to the GigaCorp Beacons shop here in the shopping district. And any scientist out there can get one of these delivered as a ready-to-unpack rocket. And you can get it set up in your own shopping district pretty easily. And it looks a little something like this. It's got a mega beacon down the very center of it, giving all of the buffs that can buff. And as you can see, this has been by far our most profitable venture right now. I think we're closing in on 2,000 diamonds now. We need to update the trophies here. But as you can see, sold out almost at the front, and sales continue to pour in, selling the beacons at 1 diamond block a beacon, I think it is. That's the price yet. No, 2 diamond blocks, excuse me. Even at 2 diamond blocks, the profits have been rolling in, which is fantastic. And this was a really great shop to work on. I really enjoyed this. Especially considering we did the terraforming around here too, right? Tried to make this area look a little bit like our base also, to match the build style of the beacon shop. And over the course of the season 2, we've thrown up a couple of other GigaCorp inspired shops here, a couple of depots. And these depots sell diorite and granite. And despite what you may think, we actually do sell a bunch of diorite, which is amazing. And, well, I don't think we've ever sold a single block of granite. No. Still to this day, not a single block of granite has been sold. But I do love the depot shops that we built here. I think they look super cool. They got whooshy doors also, of course. And yeah, this whole area's got a GigaCorp vibe, which I love. We've even got a squirter pod out here. And still a lot of work to do on bringing this terraforming to life. We need to get some Mytreliums planted here and make this whole place look a little bit better. But yeah, the beacon shop. Our first shop in the season and by far our most profitable shop to date. Absolutely awesome. We're back in the base for the next part of the tour on a beautiful evening here on the HermitCraft server. And we're plugging away at making some mud. And of course, this was the next thing that I built in my base. It's called the M1 Mud Maker. And of course, the idea of this structure was to be able to generate an insane amount of mud so that we could turn it into packed mud, which is the primary terraforming building block of our base. And I needed thousands and thousands of blocks of packed mud. And so I tried to design something that would make my life a little bit easier. and also make something automated and redstoney that would sit quite nicely in our base here. And that's exactly what this machine does. It turns dirt into mud using a very clever little loop, basically using bottles of water that loop round and round and round, and those bottles of water are used to transform dirt blocks into mud, and then the mud is pushed out into a collection area here and then ejected as a giant brick of mud on the collection platform over here. And all we have to do as the player is sit here and AFK blocks of dirt into this position, and eventually we will get a nice big stack of mud outside, which all we need to do is go and collect with a shovel. Another whooshy door, of course. This one's malfunctioning slightly though. I need to work on the timings of that, but yeah, the mud maker was a really fantastic addition to our season because it really helped me become a little bit more efficient with the terraforming. And as it gave me access to a ton of fresh mud, I was now able to spend a bunch of diamonds over at Cleo's wheat shop, and I managed to make all of the mud that we required to terraform the base and get the place looking the way that it does here. Probably most of this packed mud comes from this machine, so that's pretty awesome. And of course, any GigaCorp scientist who is setting up a colony somewhere in the Gigaverse will probably need something similar, because mud is a bit of a pain in the butt to collect if you don't have a machine, as are creekliums. Very annoying. Greg, please, my friend, can you relax? I'm trying to do a base tour episode over here, dude. Jeez. Now, once the M1 mud maker was made and I had successfully laid down all the packed mud to define the perimeter of our base for Season 10, my next mission was to try make my life a little bit easier, and, well, I needed to build something that would help me get the blocks that I needed to build some of the other bigger structures that we'd be working on later on in the series. And the first thing that I was focusing on was smooth quartz, as smooth quartz is a very common block that we're using here in the build palette. I wanted to build a structure that would smelt smooth quartz as quickly as possible, and thus I dug deep into the GigaCorp architectural archives and I discovered this little gem of a Gigasmelter. A very cool auto-smelting facility that may not be the fastest auto-smelting facility in the world, but it is pretty dang cool. One of the things I love most about this world is how chaotic the design turned out. And the reason that it happened this way is because I installed the redstone first, and I then had to build the building around the redstone. And that resulted in a very all-over-the-place type building. Zero symmetry, and very industrial looking. And it's definitely one of my favorite builds that I made so far, and certainly has inspired me to make GigaCorp buildings look as much like this as possible. I think this is a really great vibe for GigaCorp, and I really loved how this turned out. It also is actually pretty efficient as far as smelting goes. It's certainly not the fastest smelter that you can build, but it's got some really cool interaction, so check it out, right? Let's turn the Gigavisor off for this. We're going to chuck the blocks of quartz into the input pipe, and that's going to send them all the way up into the noodles up here. I think we've got an array of 32 furnaces. We've got an autoloader over here, which is putting the quartz into the hopper minecart and then delivering it into the furnaces. And as we can see, the furnaces are cooking. We've got a fuel input here too, so we can chuck a bunch of coal or any burnables into this, really. And after a while, we shall start to see those smeltables being ejected into the cooling chamber, because of course they're molten hot right now, and they get cooled down and then delivered down this little window over here, and we can actually see them dropping in from above. So a very interesting auto smelter, completely unnecessary to have this visual look about it, but when I make redstone, I try to make it do stuff that's fun to watch and fun to interact with, and this smelter is probably my favorite smelter that I've ever made. I think it's really, really sweet. And yeah, doesn't cook as fast as a mega auto smelter might do, but it's very GigaCorp-y. It does the job. And more importantly, the building just looks absolutely magnificent. I love it. Auto smelter, you're the best. Have you guys heard about sherds? They're like the most awesome thing in Minecraft. Just look at this. You can stick them on decorated pots. They look amazing. They don't do anything, but they look cool. And I've got a Sherd Shop, and They're very difficult to get. Sherds take a very long time to farm. They're a pain in the butt, and I've got them all here in my Sherd Shop. You want some, right? You want some. Don't worry about the price. Just pay the price, because trust me, you don't want to collect your own sherds. Ah yes, a tale as long as time itself, everybody. For the whole season, I've been trying to convince the hermits to come and buy my sherds at very high prices, though 3 diamond blocks for a sherd. But I tell you what, collecting sherds, especially en masse for a shop, is one of the most painful things I've ever done, and I definitely don't want to ever do it again. So the prices are going to be high. Even if we sell 0 sherds, I will not sherd ever again. Although, I am very pleased with how the Sherd Shop turned out. Next up in our tour, guys, was our next shop that we built after the Beacon Shop and the Depot shops. It is, of course, the Sherd Shop here on Wool Street. And it is a very cool build that I am extremely proud of. And it was a welcome change to what I had been building in the season so far. All the way up until this point, I had been building in the GigaCorp sci-fi style, and I really was itching to do something a little bit more classic. And I had this cool idea of making our Sherd Shop into kind of like a boutique kind of shop, right? I wanted it to be like a fancy antique shop that you might find on the streets of Paris or London or something. And this is what I managed to come up with. Definitely a lot more French than British inspired, for sure, and having spent some time in Paris myself, I really felt like injecting some Parisian vibes into our Sherd boutique, and it turned out really nicely. Lots of really cool detail to it, and a number of floors. In fact, the shop floor is just the first floor, and we still got 2 floors to populate. Not sure exactly what to do with those floors just yet, but very happy with how this turned out. It's a boutique antique shop where you can buy very expensive antiquities, aka sherds, and I do hope that we will get a few more sales in the future here at the Sherd Shop, but if we don't, I'm not going to lose any more sleep because I am never collecting another sherd again. And while we're on the topic of shops, I had another permit in my bag that I needed to turn into a shop before the Popo got really upset, and that of course was the Skulk permit. Not exactly the most profitable permit of all time, but I did not want to lose it, and thus I brought myself here to the end to construct a monstrosity that would create, well, a bunch of Skulk that no one would buy. That's not entirely true though. Cubfan has been a great customer of my Skulk, which has been awesome. Of course, Cubfan's base is predominantly made out of Skulk, and I also had a great time putting together this really strange little contraption. It's a redstone machine that makes Skulk out of Enderman, and, well, it's definitely not my design. Some really smart person managed to figure this out, but I did my own little bit of design work here to try and make it feel quite a little bit Gigacorp-y, and, well, the way that it works is that the Endermen get really cross with this Endermite over here, and they get funneled into this tube, and as they land on a spike over here, they perish. And, well, that triggers a whole bunch of Skulk sensors, which turns smooth stone into Skulk. And we've got a couple of smooth stone makers over here that push the stone into this area to be collected. And to farm the Skulk, all we need is a hoe, and we need to safely get up to this platform. This farm is definitely a little bit of a scary one. There's not a lot of safety features involved, and plummeting into the void is always an inevitability. But once the farm is up and running, and by up and running I mean you're just loading the chunks, all you need to do is come to this spot here, sit in this minecart, go back and forth, and you will not only mine Skulk blocks, but also a little bit of Skulk vein action, which is cooking on that little bit of cobblestone in the very center of it. And just sitting here doing a little bit of AFKing for 20 minutes or so will generate a very decent amount of all of these blocks. And, well, the next step, of course, was to build a shop in which to sell all of this Skulk nonsense. And thus, let's head back to the shopping district where I can introduce you to Martha. Who or what is Martha? I hear you asking out there. Well, Martha is a crane, a giant crane machine. It is a Gigacorp industrial vehicle that is designed to move extremely volatile substances, otherwise known as Skulk. Of course, Skulk is kind of dangerous. It transforms the world, it damages the environment, and it must thus be properly contained in these Skulk cell battery things. Yeah, this is Martha. It's our Skulk shop, and it's kind of sweet. It's very different to what I'd been working on in the GigaCorp base again. Of course, using the same wheel designs from the JME Gigatruck. That is sort of linking it to GigaCorp as well as the GigaCorp colors over here too, right? And essentially what the crane is doing is just moving these Skulk batteries around. Or I guess these are like containment units that are holding back, or at least trying to hold back, the very dangerous Skulk substance. You can see it's sort of leaking out into the environment and already doing some damage. We got the particles cooking away over here, of course. And, well, we have managed to make some sales, like I said, mostly to Cub Fan. And Cub every now and then comes by and buys a little bit more Skulk for his base, which is great. But all in all, I was very happy with the design of this thing. Lots and lots of detail, and I wanted to try and create a machine that GigaCorp might employ on a very hostile planet, you know? There's no prettiness in the design. It's supposed to survive harsh environments and be able to handle very volatile substances, and I really love how this crane turned out. I'm a big fan of cranes in Minecraft. I think they're super cool, and if you do it properly, you can really evoke movement and a really cool feeling of industrialness. And I think Martha does the job quite nicely. I also wanted to make sure that Martha was something cool to look at when we were coming from X's copper shop. And, you know, there's a great little view here as we walk toward the shopping district from this area. We've got Tango's Redstone shop over there. We've got the Beacon shop. We've got all of these cool shops over here. And then we have this massive, very scary looking crane on the way to this part of the shopping district. And all in all, I think Martha captured a really sweet vibe, a dangerous vibe, I suppose. And I'm very pleased with how this build turned out, although it was an absolute pain in the butt to make because of all the very fine details in it, which really made it feel like a living, working machine of awesomeness. So, Martha, you're ugly, but you're awesome. Now, of course, as a GigaCorp colony expands and new scientists arrive to do their scientific-y, worky things, so do we need to make sure that those scientific bellies are full of food. And so welcome back to the base for our next part of the tour, where we're having a look at our pumpkin and melon factory. Of course, in the lore, these pumpkins and melons are feeding the scientists of the colony, but here on HermitCraft, these pumpkins and melons are making emeralds for us. Because as you can see, one of our primary building blocks is quartz, and I needed a bunch of it, and we can get quartz from villagers. So my plan with this build was to try and make a really great pumpkin and melon farm that would generate a ridiculous amount of emeralds for us. And thus, please be welcomed to the GigaCorp Trading Hall. Here we have a whole bunch of farmers who are happy to trade pumpkins and melons for emeralds, which we will then be turning into quartz in another facility in the base. But this is the working area of our food factory, I suppose. Keeping the colony fed, and there are multiple ways that this farm is generating pumpkins and melons. These towers over here are in fact pumpkin and melon farms. They are just layers of pumpkins and melons that grow in a spiral all the way down, and whenever a pumpkin is grown or a melon is grown, a piston triggers and spits them out into this water stream. This water stream then takes the pumpkins and melons via some pipage all the way down into the guts of the factory, where they are sorted into some collecting facilities over here, and our pumpkins and melons are thus collected over here. Beneath all of this monstrosity is also a bog-standard pumpkin and melon farm that is triggered, of course, by these observers, and it actually is a bit of a dance floor situation where every time a pumpkin or a melon is grown, we'll get a little light feature beneath the floor here, which is a nice little touch to the whole thing. Pretty sweet. As you're going along, it's almost like there's electricity going bzz, 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 down below, you know? Wow, that was some weird sound effect action. Guys, I've had a little bit too much coffee today, okay? I'm working really hard to get this Space Tour episode out for you guys. It's taken way too long to make, and we're approaching, I think, the 1 hour mark, or at least getting close to it. So, yeah, a little bit frazzled at the moment. But the trading hall, Pretty sweet. Works very easily. We come here to get our pumpkins and our melons to trade like this. And then all we have to do is cycle through our various villages, or our farmers, should I say, to get all of those juicy emeralds. And those emeralds will eventually be turned into some important blocks for us, namely quartz and terracotta at our next point of call here on our base tour. So now that we had a source of emeralds coming in, we needed to find a way to turn the emeralds into building blocks. And thus we created this lovely building over here known as the Gigaplex. And within the Gigaplex, we house a bunch of GigaCorp employees. They, look, they're very happy, okay? Don't ask them any questions. They're very happy here. They have snug little apartments. They are fed via a tube attached into their spine, so they never have to sleep. And their only purpose is to make quartz and terracotta for us. So, yeah, listen, GigaCorp has got some questionable practices, but, you know, when you're trying to connect the entire Gigaverse via a mobile cellular network system, some eggs have got to crack. You know what I mean? Oh, man. Anyway, yes, this is where we build a lot of the blocks that we need for our base. Most specifically the quartz, and this has been a great source of blocks for me, saving me countless hours in the nether, grinding away at quartz blocks, and it's kind of a cool design. It does a loop around here, so you can just trade with the villagers on the bottom floor, and then you come up to the top floor, trade away, all the way back around the loop like this, and by the time you get to the end of the trading loop, you will find yourself back at the entrance into the Gigaplex, and you can head out back into your colony to construct whatever facility is next on the list. So, looking great. Really happy with how this turned out too. It looks very much like an apartment block of some kind. Not very comfortable though, but it does the job. And yeah, don't talk to the villagers though. Guys, leave them alone. They're happy. I promise. They're happy. HermitCraft fans from all over the world, I've got something terrible to admit. We have an unfinished build to show in this base tour. Oh, the shame. Oh, the humanity of it all. It's the great HermitCraft curse, isn't it? We make so many things that we sometimes leave things unfinished. And by sometimes, I mean all the time. That's just the HermitCraft way. And, well, this is one of those things. It's the Spaceport of our GigaCorp base. And by the way, how awesome does this base look from up here with the shaders? This very dusky night. There's like this ominous fog settling over the area. Looking really sweet. But yeah, I'm yet to finish this build. I need to come and do the interiors of this. This is, of course, a spaceport. Every single GigaCorp colony requires somewhere to receive deliveries from, HQ and other planets, I guess. And I suppose at some point we'll need to leave the planet also, which means we need somewhere to leave from. And that's exactly what this build is meant to do. It is the GigaCorp Spaceport, and it is designed to receive and deliver deliveries of deliverables, or something. Also, that is an absolutely insane space rat infestation over there. My goodness, need to get the exterminators out. But yeah, the space was very cool. It doesn't really do anything at the moment. It is just a really cool looking build. And mostly, I wanted to build something in the skyline that looks really sweet from this position over here. As we sort of come around the corner to get to the Gigaplex, I wanted something looming in the distance over there. And, well, that looks super cool at night. And, you know, this really feels like something you would find in a sci-fi base. Although it does hurt my soul that it is currently unfinished. Oh man, I need to get to that. I also really like the way the spaceport looks from Impulse's Cyber City. This is the Magic Mountain side of the server, and I wanted something really cool to show up when people are traveling from that side of the server to this side of the server. And well, we can see it starting to loom there in the distance. The tower of the spaceport in the dawn, looking awesome. This almost looks like pollution, right? From the base. That as the morning sun rises, so does the pollution, the polluted air around the area. That actually looks super cool. Really love that. So yeah, that was the spaceport. It was one of our newest additions to the base to date. And I do have some plans with the spaceport, which is lore-related. Obviously, something's going to be landing on the spaceport, but, you know, that'll be spoilers and whatnot. Also, I haven't figured that part out yet. They still need to work out what's landing on the spaceport. But, yeah, spaceport, pretty stinking cool, if you ask me. Just as I thought the spaceport segment would be the last of the recordings that I'd have to do for this episode, I suddenly remembered that we have a whole bunch of other things still to show. We've done so much in this season that it feels like this video is never going to end. That's okay though, because there's so many cool things yet to see, including this giant redstone monstrosity you see before you here in the Nether was a collaboration project between Hypno and I earlier on in the season. We both realized that we needed a bunch of gold and various other materials, and so we came together to build a magnificent beast of a piglin farm. There is an AFK platform all the way up here, and if we get the Gigabug out, we should be able to see this thing cooking away at full speed now. You can see the zombified piglins spawning on the platforms and then trying to attack the turtle eggs. They fail to do so and plummet to their death, where a system collects all of their loot and separates the golden nuggets from all of the other junk, and eventually the machine will create, using autocrafters of course, a golden block out of all of this, and the golden block gets pushed all the way up this item tube and collected down below in this system. And well, this is the bit that I built, and Hypno built the section down below, and together our redstone prowess came forth and brought a very efficient and awesome farm that we've been using for the entire season. And the way that this works is that we collect the golden blocks from here, we turn the machine on, and then we come all the way up this ladder and put the golden ingots in here, and basically what happens is the golden ingots get given to a stack of piglins who trade the golden ingots for their stuff, and that stuff gets shot out via this aqueduct, I guess, and then all of the items that they trade for get sorted into the various categories that we are collecting over here. Of course, this is every single trade that we can get from piglins, and I've been mostly using this for quartz, as you can see. I've been tapping the quartz quite hard, and anything else we need is here also. False is making good use of this too, using some gravel to make concrete for her shop, and we have an endless supply of all of the other things and stuff that we might need, including a bunch of rubbish that we'll never need. But this was a very cool project to work on. I had a lot of fun with this. It was a great collaboration to do with Hypno. He's such a great guy, and together we built a very cool thing here in the Nether that generates a bunch of gold and a bunch of other stuff, and is just a great little bit of redstone that I really enjoyed doing. And just like the Skulk farm in the end, and the other redstone farms that I've been working on, this sort of thing has really inspired me in Season 10 to do more of this sort of work, because it's just so cool and so much fun when eventually, after many hours of grind, your farm comes together and just starts to work automatically and in a very satisfying way. So big shout out to Hypno. Our gold farm is awesome. As we fast approach the 1 hour mark of this special episode 50 base tour, I want to thank you guys all for sticking around until this point in the video. If you're still here, I'd appreciate you letting me know in the comments. Always a great joy to know that you guys are enjoying my work here on HermitCraft. And yeah, I hope you've been enjoying the tour so far. We've still got some more things to see, but I promise you it's almost over. So stick around for the last little bit of this. We're back from the gold farm in the Nether, and I thought next stop, as we are sort of in the redstone part of the tour, I guess, we're back in the industrial side of our GigaCorp base to have a look at one of our newest factory facilities. It is our GigaCorp jet fuel facility, where we are making rockets to, well, basically be able to fly everywhere. And, well, it's kind of simple. We've got a creeper farm over here that is feeding an auto crafting farm down below, which has a sugarcane factory above it. Just had to sleep the night away as it was getting a little bit dark out here, and I'm a little bit scared of Greg, the Creeklium. He's very annoying, especially when making base tours. But yes, essentially the way this facility works is that we've got a creeper farm here, This is a very standard issue creeper farm. We've got a number of spawning platforms that flush themselves with water every 30 seconds or so. That's controlled by an etho hopper clock over here. And essentially those creepers get pushed off of these platforms and end up in a cooking chamber down below. And we can see a little creeper or a bunch of them going to get cooked down there. They get cooked and their giblets get collected and sent via some more pipage. We do love a little bit of pipage on the Rendog channel, everyone. There we can see the TNT going into the auto crafting facility here. And this auto crafting facility is what is making the rockets for us. Of course, there's still another ingredient that we require to make rockets, and that is sugarcane. And that's what this factory does. We've got 8 modules that are creating sugarcane. And these modules are very simple, just a line of sugarcane with some observers and pistons. And whenever the sugarcane breaks, all of the sugarcane gets broken on the separate floors here. And then all of that sugarcane, of course, ends up down below in the factory or the auto crafting facility, I suppose. And what I enjoyed about this build is this is the first time that I really started to use auto crafters in a useful way. And not only are we auto crafting rockets here, but we're also auto-loading them into shulker boxes, and we are getting shulker boxes of gigafuel on the regular. In fact, we have so much rocket production here that I have insane amounts of excess. I need to sell this to Etho, I think, at a very low price so that we can start to clear out some of our excess stock. But yes, a very interesting project indeed. I really loved working on this. Of course, you can see the sugarcane and the TNT is arriving in the auto crafting facility via all of these sweet pipes and getting turned into rockets in a very efficient way. So very beautiful. I also wanted these buildings to sort of loom in the distance as we approach from this direction, right? I wanted some really cool industrial looking stuff at the back of the base there. And I think they both turned out really, really cool. I love seeing the smoke coming out of the top of them in this sort of very cloudy view from here. That just looks most magnificent. And, you know, as we travel through the base and approach them from this angle, we can really start to feel that this is the nuts and bolts of the colony. This is where the industry is kicking off. And very pleased with how these two things turned out. They are surprisingly efficient too, by the way. You know, this is not an efficient creeper farm. You don't ever really want to build a creeper farm on top of the overworld like this. There's so many spawning spots deep underground and around that the number of creepers that are spawning get greatly diminished. But, you know, I'm making rockets for one person here, and this little factory is producing more rockets than I could ever use. So, very happy with the output of this, and I think they look really, really cool. And speaking of cool industrial things, we can't end the tour without having another look at the Resinvoire. This is one of our latest builds. In fact, we built this in episode 49. And it is kind of awesome, although a little bit difficult to explain because it's really weird and imagination is required to bring it to life. However, the TLDR is this is a Creeklium farm that is making resin for us. And, well, this is a perfect opportunity to show you how it works as the sun sets over our very polluted base. Wow, what a dramatic view. This thing is both designed to create resin, but also it is designed to try and protect the base and the planet from the Creeklium infection. As GigaCorp scientists have studied the phenomenon known as the Creeklium, they have come to realize that the best way to contain this infection is to keep them separated inside of a giant canister. And that canister needs to be floating on top of magnetic pads of some kind so that it can be separated from the rest of the world, lest the infection spread and further damage done to the planet. Greg is here. He has arrived. So, how does this thing work? Well, we got to get inside of the reservoir. Unfortunately, the only way in right now is through the top. But it's kind of a simple farm. Essentially, there's only one place for the Creekliums to spawn up here, and that is on this pink platform. And when we give them a bit of a whack with a sword like this, they are sending their particles over to their hearts down below, and then their resin is being farmed by a looping piston mechanic here. Just spotted a Greg inside here, which is not good. They're not supposed to be able to spawn in here, but oh, they're spawning on the back of this redstone. Okay, I need to fix that at some point. But yes, essentially, when it's actually working correctly, we just stand up here and whack the Creekliums for an entire night cycle. and all of their resin gets shook off of those things. And, well, the resin falls down through this hole over here, the thinking being that the resin needs to be purificated by this pink beam. This is known as a gigabeam, and any items that pass through this gigabeam will be purified. And thus, at the very bottom of the farm, we are collecting pure Mytrelium juice, aka resin, and this is a great way for us to increase the supply of resin in our base. There is so much going on in the colony right now. Where are all these mobs spawning? Oh my goodness. Lots of things to fix here, guys. But yes, indeed, the space rat infestation continues. But in here, of course, we are starting to collect all of the resin. This is where we collect the resin from the farm itself as it falls down through the gigabeam. Looks like I've got some work to do here, though. We've got some losses up here, as well as some creeks spawning where they're not supposed to be spawning. So, yeah, it's 90% working. Okay, everybody, this is a new build. The scientists are still working on installing some of the mechanical bits and the wirings and whatnot. It's not quite working. Also, that skeleton has spawned, which is annoying. So, yeah, let's sleep the night away before something really bad happens. Alright, I've just had a look at my very long list of segments to record for this episode, and I've just come to realize that we might actually be near the end of this tour. Quite amazing. I never thought I would get here, and just like any good GigaCorp scientist out there, I'm ending my day on the Scootball Field playing the Gigaverse's favorite sport, Scootball. The sport of Scootball was invented as GigaCorp scientists realized that space rats can be very effectively used as a ball in a sport. And that is how we came up with this really weird game known as Scootball. And that is also why we have a Scootball Field installed in the colony. This is one of the most common questions I have is, Ren, why did you not build the Scootball Field in the gaming district? It's here because of lore. Okay, the scientists of this facility need somewhere to unwind. They need to play their favorite game. They need to come and kick a space rat around after a frustrating day at the office. And that's exactly what we've got going on over here. The game is very simple. It's basically football. You got to put the scoot, which is what the space rat is called in this game, through the goal. And you're also allowed to use wind charges. And wind charges, of course, allow you to push the scoot along the field like this. And you can also do special hops and stuff. Although we're not supposed to be wearing elytra, but there's some tricks and stuff that you can do. Look at that. You get like a massive jump boost if you hit the wind target correctly. The Hermits and I have actually played a game of Scootball, which was a lot of fun. And I'm hoping to get another Scootball game played at some point this season too. That'll be really sweet. Super fun game. Also, a big shout out to all of you amazing communities out there that have made your own Scootball fields in your Minecraft worlds. I've seen a few videos of you guys playing Scootball yourselves, and that has been so great to see. And this really weird game is a very fun thing that I invented this season, and I'm very pleased with it. It's not perfect, of course, and there's a lot of errors with it. It's not exactly a smooth game to play, but it is a great amount of fun to get a bunch of hermits on this field and kick around a space rat for a while. Oh, and by the way, those of you who are worried about the space rat, do not worry. I discovered in my research when making this game that when an armadillo is inside of its shell, it will take 0 damage from a punch. And you can punch this thing around as much as possible. Although if you crit it like that, it will take half a heart's worth of damage. And so when we play Scootball, the referee will have splash potions of healing to heal up the ball every now and then, because you don't want to pop the ball in the middle of a match, you know what I mean? But yeah, that's the Scootball Field at the very end of the colony. Still a bunch of work to do. I'd like to put some grandstands in here, put some Mytreliums around the place, and just generally finish off this particular build. And once that's done, maybe we can install some redstone here, which will automatically reload stuff for the players. Maybe we'll add wind charges into these positions here that will spit out automatically that the players can connect them. And I don't know, maybe a way to regenerate the scoot itself. Maybe it gets flushed through a system where it gets hit by a splash potion of regen so that it never actually can die during a game of Scootball. But, oh, that's, you guys saw nothing. Right, is that it? Is that all the things that we've done so far in Season 10? I mean, looking at the map, I can't spot anything missing that we've been working on. I guess there's a few other little bits and bobs that we've done throughout the course of the last year. We created a rubbish dump over in the neighborhood and a few other neighborhood shenanigans at the start of the season. But as far as stuff to show you, I think this is pretty much it. I'm quite amazed, and I must say, reasonably relieved to have gotten to the end of this. It has taken way longer than I wanted it to. Apologies about that, guys. I had this idea for an episode 50, and I wanted it to be really, really sweet. I wanted to showcase everything that we've done together here in Season 10, and most importantly, I really wanted to bring my GigaCorp world to life for you guys who are maybe new to my channel and new to my season. Of course, I think there's one last thing we need to talk about. It's the Gigabots, a gift from Cleo, which are absolutely incredible. They're these little bots that help us keep the landscape intact, I suppose. This one harvests seeds from the squirtopods. This one goes around incinerating space rat poop. And then we have another very cute little bot at the back here, who is a security bot, making sure that the colony is safe from inside invaders and outside invaders, for that matter. Although what this bot could do to protect us, I have no idea. But yeah, I'm not quite sure what to say in this segment. I feel like I've been working on this episode for at least 3 years. And now it is finally done and I can get it edited and out to you guys. And I really and sincerely hope you have enjoyed it. And if you've made it all the way to the end, I salute you. And so does GigaCorp. Thank you very much for sitting and listening to me ramble and show stuff for so very, very long. Speaking of rambling and showing stuff, though, I have at least a couple days of editing to do, so I got to dilly-dally and shoot off. Guys, thank you so much for watching this episode, and if you like what you have seen in this tour, come and follow me for the rest of the season. We got so much more to do, and it's going to be fantasticals. Hit that subscribe button and whatnot. And remember, we also stream on Twitch, where we do a lot of the grindy work on Twitch. Whew, these spores, though. Whew, man, getting into my brain holes. Guys, I think it's time to say goodbye for the episode 50 special. Thank you so much for watching. Rendog and all of the Gigabots around the world, signing off, and we'll smell you all in the next episode.